Alright guys, it is Monday now. I know I wasn't supposed to really work on this thing today, but I just figured I'd get in here and get some things done. Right here we got the coolant lines. I'm keeping them a little bit long in case there is any issues, because we can always cut these back later, but better to have them too long than too short. So I verified this is the alternator plug, so I'm going to verify continuity between both sides. Once we get the tone ring on, the alternator will work on its own. Still haven't figured out where the coolant temp plug is, because it's not this one here. I think that's for the FCA for the original motor. So besides that, all the coolant lines are on and done, minus I need one more hose clamp for that guy back there, and then that'll be done. I went and bought like 9 feet of this, so I was a foot and a half too long, which is, I'd rather have more than not enough, like I was saying. But I went and bought one of these guys here for him for his fuel shutoff. So we're going to wire that up as well, as per instructed. You guys will see over here, the factory bracket is there, right about there. Here, let me zoom in for you. This guy right here is the factory bracket, so you can see the hole there. So that'll allow us to shut off the pump and then turn it back on. So super simple design. And the best way I've found to do these is you can see that the accelerator cable is right there. So that's the hole that we're gonna come out of. That's what I did on mine. It's a direct shot. It works very, very well. This we're gonna leave alone. When we put the tone ring on, this will just work. So no need for any of that. Now, he wants to drive this thing Wednesday. So it needs to be running, driving, all good by Wednesday, but there's one problem with that. I need time to make the crank sensor bracket and put the tone ring on. So I'm gonna have to go to Home Depot and get some hardware for the crank sensor, so we'll get that tone ring on. Enough of that, let's get this thing started. And we still haven't figured out what's going on with the key. I'll show you guys what's going on. So this company came out, they made us a key, okay? When we turn the key on initially, you can hear it chimes. When you turn the key the rest of the way on, nothing, no noise or anything, but you can hear the grid heater kick on and see the little emblem. But we don't have crank. Even if I push the clutch in, no crank. So that is no bueno. And that's why we were starting it. There was a little hole in this wire up here, so I was just shorting from here to here the signal wire to get it to start. I don't know if it's a key problem or an ignition switch problem, but the key does start it kicks on the grid heater. So we know that the truck is physically on. But I don't know what's going on with that. All right, so we have the fuel shutoff mounted right here. And as I was saying, it is a direct shot. You just have to flip, you guys can see the bracket right there, just have to flip it upside down, and it goes right through the hole. Just pull on it and it shuts off. So I'm gonna start it and we'll verify that it works. Can't wait to get this key fixed, because it would be nice not to have to do this. Come on. I think I gotta turn the fuel pump on. 1 second. Fuel pump is on. Fuel pump shut off works. All right guys, so it has been a hot minute since I have really done anything. I know I posted that video up the other day. I think it was like 3 days now at this point. I don't know what day I'm posting this video. But I did end up getting COVID on Monday, which I didn't know it was that. I decided, you know, I had a decent headache on Monday. I worked through it. I was working on my fiance's car because she needed AC, and we went and did some diagnostics and stuff. Found out we need a compressor. So I did that. I went home. Tuesday, I came out to out here. I finished up the cooling system, and I took out 1 bolt out of the crankshaft. Okay, took 1 bolt. That way I could use it. We're gonna line up our tone ring today, and then pretty much I left around like noon, 1 o'clock. I went to Home Depot to try to find hardware. Couldn't find it. Went home. Turns out we ended up getting COVID from my middle child's, his school waited until everybody had it to say, hey, you know, there's COVID going around. And, well, needless to say, for the first time in 2 years, I got it. So that was the only way I was going to get it, is if one of the kids brought it home. So we're back at it now. Got it on Monday. Got a little bit of headache on Monday. Hangover Tuesday. Hangover Wednesday. Thursday, yesterday I was perfectly fine, and today being Friday, I feel about 99%. I'd like to say everything tastes weird. It's still, like, I can still eat and drink and all that bullshit. But yeah, so we're just gonna get into it. I went and got hardware. Went and got longer hardware. The same stuff that I have on my truck, I went and got longer stuff, because basically what we have to do is we need to put washers in between here. I only got 15 of them because they didn't have any more. Shit! I didn't even think about that. I left the hardware store thinking, yeah, we're all good, yo, yada yada. That was Tractor Supply, they didn't have enough. So I'm using 12mm washers. And the reason I use washers instead of like a, you know, like a sleeve or something like that is because washers are easier to keep the same length. Whereas with if I were to take, say, a piece of, I don't know, a sleeve or something, and I had to get all 4 of them the same length and make sure that they weren't even the smidgen off, you know, you could probably have some balancing issues. Okay, so I did go and get more washers. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. But I feel like I'm gonna have to go get new bolts, because I don't know if that's gonna be all right. I don't know. We'll see. But there you go. That's basically what she looks like. All right, the tone ring is now on. You guys can see down there. Let's see if it'll zoom. There we go. Right there. Come on. Yeah, there you go. So it's all on. So there are 2 plugs, and if you're not gonna weld or fabricate anything, this is your next best bet, is to go buy some of this stuff. This stuff's pretty sturdy, and if you want to, you can double it up by putting it on the other side. But this is what we're gonna try, because we are gonna be trying a couple of new things on this to see where costs can be cut. There is 2 sensors that plug into the the crank sensor, so I'm gonna try and see which one works. This one was longer, so I'm gonna try this one first, and hopefully that's it, because this one might need a little bit more length if we're gonna get it onto that. But I got everything installed, and we're gonna go ahead and start it now. You can see it is not touching, but it is close enough that if I put pressure on it, you know, there's probably, yeah, a smidgen in between it, but you need it to be really close. So I'm gonna get this thing fired up, turn the key on, and we'll go from there. I do think it needs an ignition switch because it's not cranking, but the ignition switch turns on the grid heater. So we'll try that out. I'm gonna go ahead, like I said, I'm gonna get the fuel turned on, and then we'll go ahead and use our jumper wire to start it and see if we have a tack signal. If we don't, we're gonna try the other one. And hopefully one of them has a tack signal, because then if they work, then I can hook up the alternator and we'll start digging in for the coolant temp sensor. Well, guys, we have a tack signal and we have oil pressure. Okay, so cool, that is awesome. We have a working tachometer, and that means that we do not have to leave. We can get rid of this and just plug it in like factory, because now he will have a completely working truck. Now the next step, we need to get the alternator working. The ignition switch is going to be the last thing on my list, but this is basically all I bought just to be able to do it. I know guys are going to be like, oh, you shouldn't, you know, that looks cheap and flimsy, and that's kind of the point, is we want to see where we can cut costs, because something like that, okay, I'm going to show you guys on mine. Say I go and build him a bracket, right? And I can go build him a bracket, it's untested. This is the one I built for my truck years ago, okay? If I can get under here. Right there. I built that years ago. It's ugly, and I hate it. And I've had a couple of problems with it. I've had to pull it off and do a couple of things on the side of the road. It's a pain in the ass to tweak and get perfect. I wish that I would have went the cheap route. Well, I can't say the cheap route because it was free. It was just something I found. And I cut it and put it together and welded it like that, and it sucked. I should have just used literally that. This right here would have been absolutely perfect. I want to try that out. Oh yeah, here is the power steering drain lines. You can see there's a T in there. This is the drain for the factory Dodge power steering return lines. So we got to hook those up and the alternator, and then we can run and drive it. But I'm gonna try to find him a coolant reservoir, because for some reason Dodge didn't put them back there in 03. They put them up here somewhere. All right, so the bad news, it ran out of diesel. It has enough, like there's still some there. Yes, the other day when I had the fuel pump on, like there was a lot of pressure. I could push up on that and it would spray a shitload of fuel. Now it just kind of, you know, just a little bit of a stream. So needs to get more fuel. There's no fuel on the gauge, and it just won't run at this point. There's not enough fuel in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of the stuff I can. The alternator is gonna have to be the last worry, because I need it running to be able to verify if the alternator is gonna work or not. So power steering here, and then still can't find that connector. I did get the coolant reservoir in there. That's not the factory one for this truck, but it does just bolt right in from a newer truck. So I had one in stock, so I'm gonna sell him that one, other than the alternator, and fill it up with some power steering fluid, get the brakes working. But you can't get any of that working without it running. And I verified, yeah, it's definitely gonna need an ignition switch or ignition work, because if I turn the key on, the fuel pump doesn't actually turn on, but the grid heater does. But if I short the fuel pump, it comes on. So I pull this out, you know, short 37 and I think it's 37, 80, 30 and 87. You short those two and bada bing, bada boom, you have fuel pump. So a couple of things. 2003 trucks are kind of weird, because especially the early model 04s. This is actually the coolant temp sensor plug, and I had no idea, because it looks like the alternator plug, but it's not. So this sensor here is for an 04.5, you know, to 07 or whatever. I gotta go get the proper sensor so that this plugs in, so that'll be fixed. And then for the alternator, there's actually, I don't see any plugs for that now. So what that tells me is, you guys will see on mine, I have an external voltage regulator. Yeah, here it is. So we'll have to get one of these guys installed. I'll get him a wire for it. I don't know if this one actually works, but I replaced it, but I don't know if it actually worked. It might have been, I forget. I think something else was the reason why mine wasn't working. So I'm gonna try this one, and I'll just give this one to him, because obviously, like, I don't know if it works or not, but they're not super expensive by any means. So yeah, I'm gonna call that good for today. I'm gonna go ahead and just go grab those parts today. Whether I come back or not will determine on if I come back or not, I don't know. Starting to realize that there's a big difference between swapping a truck that gets used every day, which makes the swap easy and all the parts are available, and then you have a truck that sat for months and months and who knows how long, and a bunch of parts are missing. And it just makes everything that much more of kind of a pain. But power steering fluid, I'm gonna go buy one of these, the wiring to go with it, and a new sensor. And then that will complete the swap. And then he'll just need to get a ignition switch at some point installed, which someone else will have to do that, because they'll have to match the key and all the other, or they'll have to match everything. And then we'll keep the footwells out, or the wheel wells out, because that way you can tell if there's any leaks or anything going wrong. I like to leave the wheel wells out for a little while. I'm actually not running mine right now, because I am going through and doing a little bit of diagnostic, just driving around, and you know, I know that I'm going to be cleaning everything up here at some point and painting stuff, so that's why I have mine off. Sucks thinking you're almost done and then you're like really close. There's like 4 things on the list we got to do yet. So I got 2 things of power steering fluid, because that's what the 96s take. Unfortunately, couldn't get the correct sensor. Nobody has it. I did go and get this guy and a wire harness, so that'll be perfect. We can actually mount it, you know, right there, which would be perfect. Have its own little plate right there, put it nice and neat on top of that, and then we can wire it right to the alternator. I just got to go and figure out what my diagram was, and then we'll reinstall the sensor, and we have to make that plug into that somehow, because for some reason when they gave me the sensor for that, it was like a different thread. I don't even know. So I'm not gonna dick with it, other than we're gonna get this thing to go into that, and we'll call it a day. I'm gonna save this for you guys doing this, and I'm gonna add this to the list. You can put this wherever you want, okay? I'm putting it here, and basically I'm gonna say, if the customer ever wants to change things around and move things around, that's fine. Or if he wants me to come back and do things like change things around, change things, maybe get hard lines for these or stuff, like just anything. You know, there's a million different ways to do this. So to get to the point of this, this is what I'm going to tell you guys. If you're going to do a 12 valve swap on a common rail, just go ahead and buy one of these. I don't know why my 04.5 stopped. It charged without it before, but it stopped charging at one point, and I have no idea why. And I got one of these and it worked great. Now on this truck, there's no wires I've seen for the factory alternator because, well, it was gone. And I haven't found it in any of these sensors. I don't know if it's this one, but nothing was labeled, and nothing matches. This was the only one that matched, and I don't even know if that one's correct or not. But basically, you have this, you wire one to one side of the alternator, one to the other, and then one to the positive, which you can see right here. Now you'll know it's the wrong side. If this sparks and, you know, makes a little bit of noise when you put on it, or you can feel it, it's the wrong side. So switch it. What I'm finding is, you can see here, so the blue one here is the middle. You're gonna wanna run that to the top post of the alternator, because there's two posts on these. Show you right there. So the top post, you can see, is gonna go and split off to the middle here, and then to the battery. And then the bottom one is just gonna go to the green. And there you go. You'll have a charging alternator. You just need to make sure you ground it somewhere. That's where we're grounding it. So now, did get 5 gallons of diesel in it. Okay, we're at 1238 on the battery. We got the fuel pump on. I verified that we have fuel pressure because, well, I can feel it in the line. So I'm gonna go and make sure that the fuel pump is actually on by feeling under the truck. We're gonna start it, and we're gonna see what our battery voltage is. And if it starts charging, I'm gonna let it idle for a little while because it has coolant in it. Then we're gonna have to do the power steering, which power steering's done, so now I just need to put some fluid in the lines. We are charging. We have a voltage gauge. That'll take a minute to come up. We'll mess with the tach. We know we have a tach. Oil pressure gauge. We're still working on the coolant gauge. Okay, so that is a very successful start. So we do have an alternator. It was getting up to 13.3, which it's going to take some time before it gets to 14.5 to 15 volts. That's about where these things sit at. But obviously, because we've been cranking it and running it for how many days without actually charging it. So I'm going to let it do that. But before I do, I want to get some power steering fluid in this bad boy. So while it's idling, I can start turning the wheel and getting the brakes to work, and then I can also put this guy in here happily. That'll be awesome. I want to get this engine up to temp, which it's going to be hard to tell when it's up to temp because there's no coolant sensor, but we do have an infrared gun, so we'll be able to tell. And going to put that wire and install everything in, it was time to replace this guy because you can see it broke off, and then you can see the corrosion on the other side. So had to replace that as well. Goodness gracious. I'm hoping that's the last thing I got to replace on this thing, because try to keep it as cheap as possible. But damn, everything is just testing this project. This is probably the worst example of this project that you could ever have. The worst case scenario project. Nothing. Half the parts were missing. Goodness gracious. All right, so that's done. Everything's hooked up. Now, I've already put power steering fluid in it. You can see down there, yes, power steering fluid because it is a 12 valve. Common rails use ATF, but common rails, or the 12 valves don't. So I'm gonna get it started again and we'll go from there. I did get to use the first gear. It does move. Get to where I'm comfortable. Damn, I put a lot more in it than I thought I did. I got that thing almost up to a quarter tank. I'm gonna go throw some more in it. Something else I noticed is that the ignition will time out because there's a key in it right now, but the ignition switch will actually time out and it'll stop making that noise. So I don't know what issues there were with this thing beforehand, which I'll show you in a minute when I get back to it. But we got power steering fluid. I'm gonna put the cap back on. I'm gonna go drive it around the lot a little bit, but I do want to get the idle to come down because it's idling right now at 1,000, which is, you know, decent high idle in the wintertime, but not a good standard idle. So get that taken care of. That's just 2 screws. Just need 2 10 millimeters. Alright guys, we have a running, driving 12 valve. And I'm going to show you that it drives, because I'm going to drive it. Okay, so we have voltage, and I have sunglasses, because I can't see for shit. Push the clutch in, get a little closer. That down, that down. Put the windows down. It's hot in here. Okay, so ABS light, brake light, check gauges light, check engine light, all that's on. Lamp out light. Turn signals all work. That works. Brakes work. There we go. Get our mirrors right. Moving. Oh my goodness. I don't know how much boost this thing's gonna make because, as you guys know from before, there is an issue with the turbo. So I don't know if it's gonna make good power. Or if it's not, you know? Let's check for leaks. I don't see anything. All right, I see no leaks yet. That's not a good sign. That's a very bad sign, but that looks like oil out the exhaust. I'm gonna get this thing going back and we'll park it. So I figure I'll get you guys in the shade. That's a lot of something coming out the exhaust there. Could be oil, who knows? Let's go check the tailpipe. That's hard to say, because there is a big ass muffler in there as well. But that is the first time this thing has driven on its own. Now the thing is, you guys who've watched this since the beginning knew that there was a little bit of a turbo issue. I wish we had a boost gauge to really check it. Unfortunately, I'm going to tell you guys, the guy who owns this truck, I don't have really much information on it. I just spoke with his fiance today and she dropped over the rest of the parts. He ended up getting in a bad accident. I didn't get any details on it. So for any of you guys out there, just, you know, hope him a speedy recovery. So she still said that they need the truck done. So I'm doing my best to try to get it working for them. And I'm really hoping that that turbo doesn't become an issue to bite him in the butt, because he did say that he wanted to try to be cheap at first, and then later on we'll try to throw some more money at it. As of like right now, he just needs it to work, but then the problem is he got into that accident. So I'm hoping he's okay. It's unfortunate. Nothing is certain. Anything can happen. I mean, something could happen to me at any single day, but that's pretty much it. The truck is, you know, sitting back there. It's, you know, done to the point where it can be. Just want to work out a couple of the kinks, you know, get the what do you call it? Let's get the gauges working. We got a little bit of fuel in it, so it's got enough fuel to run around. And I'm trying to think of what else there will be on that. I think that's actually pretty much it, because it runs and drives now, and we just need the gauges and the key to work. That's about it.